Hello, guys, and welcome to the Big Screen Podcast. I'm Will, and once again, I'm joined by my co-host Theo. Theo, how are you doing today? What have you been up to?
Not a lot. Rewatched the two latest, except for today's episode of Doctor Who with my mate.
What do you think?
Rewatching with a mate is a bit different to just watching them, so I looked in with not so critical of them, so I had a bit more fun with them this time around.
Nice. I think we've also been watching the same thing elsewhere in terms of movies, a certain franchise.
Yes, Mr. Bond.
Yeah, what are you making of those?
A bit boring as I've started. Not gonna lie.
The first few Bonds are quite boring.
Wait, what ones have you seen?
The first four. I'm up to Thunderball.
So, have you seen Thunderball yet?
I've watched Thunderball today, actually.
That's next up for me.
See, Doctor No, okay, I understand it can get a little bit tedious, but from Whisper of Love, Goldfinger, Thunderball, they're all great.
Goldfinger is
just
fantastic.
Slow, and Bond's a little rapey for my likings.
To be fair, Bond is very rapey in the early Connery films.
It just put me off. I was like, oh, okay, this is our hero, okay.
Yeah.
And if you couldn't tell, we have two guests with us, Joe and George.
Oh, hi. Sorry.
You've never been here before, so we have to introduce you.
Okay.
Joe Deacon, George Poupart. Who are they?
Hello, I'm Joe. I've never been here before.
Yeah. And these are like our final guests of this series as well. So they were the first guests of the series, and now they're our last. So it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to have you back. How are you guys doing?
Doing great,
yeah.
And last two times, we reviewed some very good films. Some may claim Star Wars in June, even though I only like one of the two. But again, you have to go back to watch those. Today is a slightly lesser film, definitely one that's not going to be held in such high regard in however many years' time as the other two. However, again, Theo, Joe, and George are with me. So the film in question is Eternals, the latest MCU flick. Of course, we're all MCU buffs, I suppose I can say. Yeah. You guys are big MCU fans, yeah?
Yeah. I kind of have
into it this year.
I have more kind of mixed opinions, or more complicated feelings on them now than I used to. But generally, I would say I'm an MCU fan.
Yeah, I do have a bit to say about the whole context of the franchise in regards to this film, especially with Shang-Chi connections, which I will allude to later. But for now, I do have to pick up my granddad from the pub. So I'll leave you guys to it. Good luck.
All right, see ya.
All right. Well, I guess I'm the captain now.
Yes.
So, you want to start at the beginning?
Sure.
Yes, why not?
So, I actually want to get some opinions on this. The film begins with a title crawl. What are we saying about that?
Title crawl. See, the thing is, I saw this film like over a week ago, and I barely even remember there was a title crawl.
Yeah, I completely forgot.
I remember most of the film. I remember the film pretty well, I would say, but you saying there's a title crawl, I don't even remember that.
Yeah, because the film begins with like the rating system and all that malarkey you see in the cinema nowadays, but then it goes straight into a title crawl. Very not Star Wars-esque, but they're getting a helping hand from Star Wars there.
I think a lot of kind of like big epic films, like fantasy films, always start with like a title kind of crawl, like saying like give you some context. That generally kind of happens.
It does make it feel like they're trying to be like, oh, this is a serious one, guys. Like you got to read up on this one before you get into it.
Yeah, I think the whole kind of serious kind of tone is something that I'm sure we'll get into because I do have thoughts on it. But anyway, Theo, you want to kind of like go over what you think about Eternals first, as you're the host?
Well, for me personally, I've seen it twice now, and I like it. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's terrible, and I don't think it's bad as people make it out to be. I think it's a above average MCU film. What about you guys?
Well,
we're probably not as positive.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't think this is a terrible film, and I know it's considered to be like the worst reviewed Marvel film of all time, and it's not that bad. I think there are worse Marvel films, but
Definitely.
it's not great in my opinion. I think it is very flawed. There's just a lot of things working against it. I wouldn't choose to watch it again, but there is a lot to love and there is a lot to appreciate, I think, in it. It's kind of more of a mixed film for me as opposed to a flat-out bad one.
Yeah, I'm probably leaning more towards bad. I didn't hate it. Like Joe, there are some good things in it. I just watching it, I was just It's the first Marvel film I've seen since the Spider-Man film, and I sort of am a bit done with Marvel. And I thought, oh, I'll watch the Eternals, and then I was just like, oh, I don't care, and I wasn't entertained. Yeah, I don't know. I'm the most negative, I think.
And
Did you skip over Shang-Chi then?
I actually watched it like the other night after watching the Eternals.
I skipped Shang-Chi in the cinema, but I did get the chance to catch up on it.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I liked Shang-Chi even less than Eternals.
Really?
Yeah, I know a lot of people kind of really love Shang-Chi. But to me, okay, this is a problem I'm feeling with Marvel a lot at the moment. One word I sort of use to describe them is over-budgeted.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Marvel films. They're always huge. They have so much money put into them, and it's always evident on every Marvel film you watch. There's so much money being poured on the screen, and so many expensive actors and effects and all that stuff. But do you stop and think that, like, is it always necessary? Like, I look at Shang-Chi and I think, yeah, there's so much money on display, but wouldn't it be more effective if you didn't use an effect there or location and you had more practical stunt work? But no, we have this huge budget and we've got a cover for that. So we have these very digital scenery, very effects heavy action scenes, and it just doesn't work. It all feels very fake. And to me, that was the most evident in Shang-Chi than Eternals or even Black Widow as well, but not as bad as me. And like Eternals had a much more kind of grittier, more risk feeling. Look, obviously it doesn't still looks a bit fake sometimes, but it was a bit more gritty and a bit more grounded, it felt, than Shang-Chi, which was very fake, a lot of it. But I can understand why people like it because it's very different from what you get in the MCU. But I think just the amount of money on display is just too much, I think.
Especially towards the end. I think that's where I was like, okay, this is just one step way too far. And it's just like 20 minutes of just nonsense. So I'm just like, you could have ended it when he was fighting his dad and just end the film there, or end the fight. You didn't need to have all that massive stuff. I get why they did it, but still, it just.
Because think of like Black Panther, where there's like a lot of kind of like mature kind of like stuff going on, and then we just kind of end it in this big effects-heavy action sequences. That's very silly.
Sort of problem, yeah. But yeah, I enjoyed Shang-Chi. I liked the action, especially. I was like quite surprised how like fluid and cool it was. I like the character as well, but that I guess that we can talk about characters here. We're
talking about Eternals.
Let's
because like as much as I like Shang-Chi, I didn't like sort of any of the Eternals, all like 25 of them.
You didn't like any of them.
Yeah. Well, I liked.
Can you name all of them?
Oh God, no, I cannot. But I liked Icarus. I thought he was an interesting character, but he is the sort of like Homelander or I saw it coming a mile off. As soon as we were introduced to him, I was like, well, obviously he's going to be a baddie.
Spoilers, by the way.
Are we worrying about spoilers?
Nah.
Okay, good.
If we want to properly, we can't.
I got a bit worried then. Okay, yeah. So but like, characters. I like the guy who didn't show up until the last one that was introduced. I liked him.
Phaetos.
Sure, I'm not. I don't know.
Oh, we don't know. You could just make up words and be like, "Yep, that one."
What color was it? Like, was it the blue one? Was it the green one?
He was the guy that like sort of created things. He was the guy who had the atom bomb.
Ah, yes, the purple one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I think so.
That was the massive concern, I think, going into this film, is that they're trying to introduce, I think, 10 new characters in the span of 2.5 hours. And I remember going to watch it being like, oh, this is going to be overstuffed. I'm not going to like any of these characters. I'm going to forget them all. But I found myself actually liking most, if not all, the Eternals for different reasons. Yeah, they have their flaws, and obviously because it's all got to focus on all of them, but mainly Cersei, the green one. If we're going to go by color.
I know Cersei.
Power Rangers. Yeah.
No, Cersei because the main one, the main Power Ranger. But I feel like I still liked all of them, and obviously when some of them were getting killed off, I still felt like, oh, I kind of cared for that character.
I will argue that they're all okay. They have the thing for me is they're just so underdeveloped that
that's the thing. The characters aren't horrible.
So much more.
the characters
they're
aren't
like a
horrible.
good start. They're a good start, but they don't finish. They don't have any arcs or anything of any note. And it's sort of like when that guy died, I was like, I was surprised. I was like, oh, they just killed one of them, but I don't know your name. I don't really care. And they sort of don't really care in the film. Like I forgot. Oh yeah, one of them died like 10 minutes ago.
The characters aren't horrible. There's just too many of them. I think they're just like I like some of them kind of like in parts, but they're all crammed together. And you say there's 10 characters of the Eternals, but like apparently there was like 12 or something in the comics, and they just cut 2 out. But they just left 10. And then it feels like
there was 11 because you have old Harry Styles at the end there.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
but it's just 10 characters. Like the thing with Avengers is that like we knew the majority of the characters kind of going into it, and so like Guardians of the Galaxy, that's much less crew and the focus on Peter Quill anyway. But with Eternals, it's just the focus on Cersei a lot of it, but we have all these other characters who are just so undeveloped and just so much more less charismatic and dull, and there's some great actors involved, but they don't do anything.
Oh yeah, all of them are really good. I've seen them all in loads of things, and yeah, they're all really good. They don't have anything to work with.
That's very frustrating.
For me, the most annoying one is Cersei, that the main actress. I wasn't expecting her to be the main one. I don't know why. I didn't know anything about the film before going in.
I think the promotion built up that Icarus was going to be the main one, or Ajax, which was
Yeah, I thought maybe sort of the bigger named actors were going to be more prevalent, but it was more the opposite. Obviously, I mean, I knew everyone, but like I just felt like she was obviously the main character, but like she should have been given so much more. She is outshined by all the other ones, not all of them, but like Icarus and maybe like, again, I can't remember their names. The Bollywood actor.
Oh yeah, Camille
Kingo.
That actor, I can't remember his name. But,
like he was easily my favourite, just because he was like, I guess you could say he was the most comedic, but I also thought he had the best like emotional range out of all of them. I don't know what you guys think, but
see, the things with the characters is that like I know they could be interesting if they kind of like took them as like focused on them more. Like for example, Sprite. Is that right? The
yes, that's one I remember.
I got one. I got one.
Nice.
But and I remember with that character, she was kind of saying at the end how she feels like she's eternal. She's kind of like, but she's got the rest of her life in this kind of child's kind of body, and she's never going to grow. And I thought that was a very interesting thing, but they didn't explore it. It was just a very quick thing that was said in the climax, and that's the thing. We're saying all these characters, 10. There's interesting things about them, but they're not explored because there's so many. And the film just, it's a long film. It's like 2.5 hours, 2 hours 40, however long it is. It's just not enough. It's still not enough time to develop all of them and make them interesting, because even the ones they do focus on, like, still don't really they have anything to them.
Yeah, and I think that it also has a problem. I don't know. I will stop talking. Do you want to sort of follow your notes?
Explain why you like the characters, because we're being too negative.
Well, I just want to get your general opinions about the Eternals, because I know that they were like obviously the main focus of the film being the Eternals and everything. And I kind of do agree with you. I do feel like some were way more pushed aside. I think of no, I'm forgetting the name. The red one, Makari.
Yes.
Makari was very much like going into it. My favorite superhero is like the Flash, so I like speedsters.
That one. If you just say their powers, or
yeah.
And then she was in like the last 20 minutes, half an hour, and she was probably still the most interesting character in my opinion, because her whole dynamic with Jurig, who was who I think was probably the strongest actor.
Yeah, I would argue that he was also one of the most interesting. They're all interesting because they all have like really interesting stories, but they don't focus on that. But like, Druid, he sort of had this like presumably this sort of cult of mind-controlled people for a couple 100 years.
And they have an interesting power set
and then they're like they're obviously quite upset about that. They're like, that's wrong and blah blah blah. But then at the end, he's just like, oh yeah, that's old Druid. What's he like?
Although they have an interesting power set as well. I think that went like just Cersei, for example, like she could just turn anything into any material. I think that's just a very cool like power to have. And that stuff is definitely the most interesting thing to me. There's not like I really don't. I'm going to be negative in this film throughout this podcast, but like I don't want to sound like I hate it because I don't. There is a lot kind of to appreciate about it, but and there are some cool things, particularly with the characters. But I think overall it just doesn't quite work, and I think a big reason is that it's just because it's so overstuffed and crammed.
Yeah, it's definitely not the worst Marvel film.
No,
definitely not.
Well, it is actually just curiosity. What does everyone think is the worst Marvel film?
Oh God, probably Thor 2.
See, Thor 2, I don't actually hate. Like, I think it's fine. Like, it's not my least favorite. I think I really don't like. The Incredible Hulk to me is the worst Marvel film because that's the one that I think even the films just like trying to shun it.
Yeah, I mean, I used to hate.
Say again, sorry.
The Dark Elves in Thor: The Dark World are such shit villains. I just did not care for them whatsoever.
They had the Ninth Doctor and they wasted him.
Yes, they
had their chance with Eccleston.
Yeah.
I think just like I can understand why people might cite this as the worst one because it does feel one of the more messiest. But there is a lot going for it. I think the main thing for me that it has going for it is in the performance director Chloe Zhao. She is a very strong director, I think, and she brings a lot to this film. I think Eternals has a much more distinct kind of style to it when definitely compared to something like Shang-Chi or Black Widow or most of the Marvel films. It does feel like Chloe Zhao came in and brought something to this film.
I would say the directing and cinematography at times is like really good.
Yeah.
Then I think what hinders it is the CGI, like especially towards the end. Like you were saying the title or the text at the beginning. I don't remember that, but what I do remember, weirdly, probably my favourite scene is the first scene, the opening scene.
Hello.
Why, hello.
Did you run to the podcast?
Stuff like that, Jesus. I'm back now. It's bloody bitter cold out there.
It is freezing.
Carry on with the conversation. I'll just kind of, earwig for a little bit.
I was just saying my favourite scene, which is the opening scene, sort of where you see him in space, in the spaceship going past the sun. It reminded me, and then they go on Earth and everything. It reminded me a lot of 2001 in terms of, I can't remember what it was. Is it the cinematography? The sort of, it just reminded me of that, and very sort of grand and epic. Like
This film does have that feeling to it. It's very kind of like, profound, philosophical kind of feeling. That's what I think that's what it's trying to aim for, definitely, because there's a lot of more sort of philosophical questions that you feel like it's trying to kind of explore. And some of it is interesting, but I think the film kind of fails more because it's just trying to be so big that it's
trying to be a Marvel film. You've got a really interesting film here, but it's trying to fit the Marvel formula. I mean, I just hate the Marvel formula, but just in this case, it really sticks out as like it just clashes.
I think I saw a Letterboxd review the other day, and what one person was saying is like, in terms of origin stories, assuming let's consider this an origin story for the sake of comparison, compare this to Thor, for example. Thor is this outer space god or whatever, but we don't really see outer space shenanigans. We always see it's set on a planet, and what they were trying to go with was that the MCU is actually, contrary to what you're saying, yes, it's thin like the MCU structure of a film, but how it's introducing these characters is completely different. It's trying to set them up to be like space gods, but not actually show them being godlike. I guess how they tried to portray that in this film is like showing off the superpowers. But what they were saying was they're not interested in this like outer space shenanigans. They'd rather it be more grounded, like people that would happily like save an old woman who would get hit by a bus if they didn't intervene. Like they think it's straight too far away from that. So you wouldn't see like Tony Stark or Thor join the Eternals because it's so different to what the MCU is.
I would argue that's sort of a deliberate choice, maybe, because I mean the Eternals is very much like they are aliens. They're like they are gods. They walk among us or whatever. Like all of them have lived for like 2,000 years, and they've watched the Earth and they've influenced it. Sort of like the Bollywood actor, like they all have like interesting aspects, like him especially, because like he has decided to become an actor and he's sort of pretending to be his son and everything, and it's all like
that was a nice little joke. I thought I quite liked that little gag.
And it's like stuff like that. It's like those really interesting concepts are interesting, and I'm like, wow, okay, yeah, let's learn more about this. It's just so underdeveloped or left as a one-off joke.
Yeah, well, we were
and
saying,
they focus on all the wrong things.
We were saying while you were away that we kind of like the thing with a lot of characters is that there are so many of them, and there's kind of interesting elements to almost all of them, which are just kind of like explained very quickly. Like I was saying with Sprite, with like her kind of backstory, how she kind of doesn't like how she's living in kind of the body of a child, and she doesn't get the chance to kind of grow and kind of marry and have children and things like that. That's a very interesting idea, which just doesn't get explored at all, which is mentioned very quickly in the climax, and there's just a lot. There's a lot of that.
I was just gonna say, it's like builds up to something special, and then whilst the end does have a nice bit of dialogue with her, like choosing to step away and whatever and do her thing, it just felt very tacked on. It's like, your thing. This is an arc that we set up. Have a conclusion, and it didn't really build up to that point at all. But like what you said about like there being a lot of people, Theo, I'm not sure if you mentioned this, but you said to me in uni that before I watched the film, you had watched the film, and you said you were interested in about 5, but not so much in a couple of the others. Can you remember which ones you were invested in?
The ones I was invested in the most was probably Icarus, Kingo, Jurig, and I had quite a soft spot for Gilgamesh just because he was the funny comic relief, and I think he quite nailed that. And then Thena, because I was very interested in like the Mad Weary and where that was going to go, and I like the payoff it had at the end there. So I was like, this is a weird thing to be introducing in a flashback and a weird character trait for her. And then they're like, the reveal, because goddamn, this film's got so many twists in it, that they're like erasing their memories, and Mad Weary is them remembering past lives. I just think that was very clever. I think that was probably the smartest subplot line, because I know you were saying about Sprite and how like it was a bit sudden and a bit tacked on. But I quite like how they interwove it with Thena's Mad Weary.
Yeah, I mean, it's a plot point. It's part of it. And I think, that's handled quite well. It's just like the one that, again, I don't know any of their names. The Flash, the one that runs really quickly.
Let's just call them the Flash.
It's just the Power Rangers. You just go red one.
Yeah, I mean, she's the red one. Like I couldn't tell you anything about her apart from she stayed on the ship and read like 1,000 books.
Read a single book in that whole time.
Yeah, slow reader.
Ironically,
fast runner, slow reader. Yeah.
My favorite character isn't actually an Eternal. It's Karun, the videographer who was like doing the documentary.
Yes.
Right.
Like it's just sudden reappearances. Like we forget about him briefly, and he's just there. And I also like the moment where I'm not sure which one it is, but she's like, I think it's Sprite actually, and Sprite says, how many of those things do you have? And he says, I got backups or whatever. Which
I wasn't sure who you were talking about then. I liked him. I did feel like he just sort of got kicked out at the end or towards the end.
No, I liked how he ended actually.
Yeah, he had a nice sort of like thank you for everything, but like again, like it sort of was just like, well, if you weren't going to do anything interesting with him, why have him in the film? Like, don't get me wrong, I really liked him. Like, he was one of my favourites. Funny and everything. But yeah, like again, he was there and he didn't do much, and I was like,
because to go on to what you were saying, I did feel like when he was saying goodbye, I did wonder if they were actually going to like mock that moment, like one of the Eternals, just because it didn't felt like it was earned, because none of them had really helped him supposedly. Like maybe they saved his life once or twice. Well, once, if that. But it just felt like he was so underdeveloped. He was just there for comic relief. So for him to have like a goodbye speech, I did feel a bit out of place, and like, was it needed? Sure, we needed to write him out somehow. But again, he's just there for the comic relief, and I don't think there's much else to that character. Like there's no story behind him other than he tags along one of the Eternals. I'm not sure of his name. The tall guy, the magician guy, the performer. Theo, you're a fan of this film. Do you know the names?
Are you talking about Kingo, the Bollywood actor?
Yes, him. Kingo would probably be my favorite. I think he's our
Oh,
constant.
Kingo's hilarious.
I think he's the most entertaining character. He's definitely the most memorable.
Yeah.
Have you seen Adventure Time?
No.
Sort of.
Because the whole time I was watching, this is a bit off the beaten track. The whole time I was watching it, Kingo's voice really rattled around in my head for the whole film. And when I got out there, he voiced a character in Adventure Time, and that really threw me off because he kind of plays the same kind of godlike character in Adventure Time. And hearing his voice
Typecast.
the second time, I'm just balling up in laughter because I'm like, that's the guy from the kids show I watched.
All right.
I love how we made a reference that isn't Doctor Who. Well done. I'm very proud of you.
I'm bringing in the obscure Adventure Time references here.
Honestly, the viewers, and there are a lot of them nowadays, literally take a shot every time you hear Doctor Who be mentioned by name. Because, my God, there are a lot of them. We could be talking about some weird, obscure foreign film, and we just think, Doctor Who.
This reminds us of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Yeah, I made a few references to Doctor Who, so sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. We referenced Doctor Who in the 2 minutes I was here at the start, so I expected them.
They're still on purpose to get our audience drunk.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm so drunk that they think this is a coherent conversation. Yes, this is an excellent episode.
Let's watch this again.
Yeah, but I wish. But basically, I almost fell asleep during this movie, and I in the last episodes with you guys on as guests, I kind of said to Michael that he should rewatch June because he fell asleep and he didn't really have a fair assessment of the film because he fell asleep. It would have been very ironic if I did the same for this film, but thankfully I didn't. It was the middle part.
What would you have done if you did fall asleep?
Oh God, I'd have had to rewatch it.
You'd pay an extra ticket.
God, well, I did go to watch Ghostbusters Afterlife the other day.
Oh,
and
how was that?
I thought it was decent.
Okay.
It was all right. The end should have hit emotionally, but it didn't. But visually, it was stunning. It looked awesome. But I got taken out for the final 20 minutes, sort of, in my headspace, just because there was a power cut locally. And all the cinema screens went kaput for about 10 minutes. So it was very interrupting. And that hadn't happened to me since my very first cinema experience about 10 years ago watching Up.
That's never happened to me at all.
No,
Really?
yeah, luckily, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Never had a power cut watching a film in the cinema.
Again, it's only like a once in a decade thing that's happened to me personally. But yeah, that happens. So they actually gave us a free ticket or a refund. So, if I were to, and if I did fall asleep, I'd be like, oh yeah, you know what, I'll go watch this film again, Eternals, even though I didn't want to, just because it was about halfway through. And they're in the woodland area, and they're having this big, section for character development. And I just couldn't be asked because I was more focused on the flashy visuals, which for me are perfect. I think this is the best looking MCU film.
I was saying the best thing about this film is the fact Chloe Zhao directed it, and she has a very good visual eye. I think I don't know if anyone's seen her previous film Nomadland. It's very atmospheric, and you can tell she actually there's a bit of that in this film Eternals because it's shot on location, thank God, instead of just constant greens, and it just has that kind of feeling to it that I think Chloe Zhao's vision is definitely very fresh in the MCU.
Yeah, I'd agree because I watched Black Widow again the other day, and that was also a female director, I believe. And I do think
Kate Shortland.
and I think she's a very talented director because I thought Black Widow, even though it's not the best film, I thought it was bloody nice to look at. And the thing is, I was impressed because, I was slightly unimpressed actually, because watching a film as old as this year, because that came out this year, even though it was made many years ago, 3 years ago, it was filmed and done stuff to it. It feels really dated compared to Eternals and Shang-Chi, which are both very good looking films. And I think they overshadowed Black Widow massively, which at the time I thought looked awesome. But then in retrospect, I was like, it doesn't look as good as the Shang-Chi action scenes, for example, because the Shang-Chi action scenes are absolutely the highlight in this film. I agree with I think it's Sprite who can disappear and then reappear in other places.
She can create illusions.
she can create illusions, and I think it was really well framed. And I'm not sure if that's like a directorial thing or
Well,
both the two
director
together.
DB, put together.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Them lot. The framing of those moments were excellent, and the special effects are very good. I also really liked the creatures. I'm not sure what they're called
Really?
The
either.
Celestials.
The Deviants were the main ones. I didn't like it.
I hated the design.
They didn't look that good.
I mean, the first scene when they're on like the beach, and then one prances out with the water to eat the fisherman guy, that was cool. But then, in that sequence, actually, it kind of pops out of the water entirely to run after that kid, and you have to suspend disbelief, of course, because it's a film. But I just thought surely that kid would be dead by now because he was running at him for about 10 seconds at like 50, 60 miles an hour, and this kid is just like doing this little kid run, and I just thought, come on. Kill the guy, or at least have one of the Eternals come in sooner to rescue him, and then eventually they do. And I just think, sure, the visual effects weren't the best for the actual killing of the creature, but the actual design I didn't have a problem with, and I did love the design of the spaceship. I'll mention that.
One thing I did love visual effects wise was the Celestials. I think they just felt huge. In a way that's like very impressive. I think, like in the I think my favorite scene in the whole film is actually one of the last scenes where we have kind of the main character, what's her name again, Theo? Cersei, yeah, and she's walking through a park with Kit Harington's character, and then you can kind of see the whole celestial space in the sky, and
it kind of merges,
yeah, and I thought that was great. That was really impressive. I thought the way that was kind of built up to it, it was like the whole scale of the celestial was perfectly done in that shot of his whole face, because he's way bigger than the whole of Earth, and his whole face just in the whole sky. That was very well done, I thought.
Yeah, because you have like this female character, again, I'm not sure of her name. We're going to have a lot of these moments. But she kind of gets not teleport, but like transported out into space. And you have these kind of not close-up shots where you don't actually focus on the Celestials until right at the final moment where it's like kind of revealed. And like, as you said, it's huge compared to Earth. And it's kind of looking over Earth. That was an awesome moment.
And like when we saw the hand kind of come out of the ground, like again, huge. Like it's really impressive how they really had to capture the scale of these things, because that's something that's hard to do.
But I watched this film with my grandparents. I'm not sure who you guys watched it with.
I watched it with a uni mate.
Right. Well, my grandparents were very receptive to these kind of things, and one of my granddad's biggest criticisms was the knife at the start, just as we're going into the title sequence. He believed, I think it was the knife, the thing that gets handed to the kid.
Yeah.
He thought that was going to have a bigger influence because it was made a big-ish deal of towards the start, and we never actually kind of get.
Yeah, it's bizarre, I found, because the whole deal with the Eternals is they're not supposed to interfere. But then she gives them a dagger, and then it's like we see cut to like 2,000 years later or something, and the most influential dagger in the world or something. And she's like, "Oh my god, I did that." And it's like interesting way to start the film. I mean, obviously, if you were showing that they didn't follow the rules, that would make sense. But it's just it's like contradicting yourself straight away.
Exactly. And like thematically later in the film, I believe it works because one of the other guys is contemplating on whether to like avert the war that was going on outside. I think that was like an excellent inclusion of like actually dealing with the real world situations, adding like that humanity and should we save humanity element to it, which I thought was fantastic. But the bit we just talked about didn't fit, in my opinion.
That's what's leading to earlier with like the really cool philosophical elements, because that's an interesting kind of question about like, would you let anyone on Earth die in order for like loads and loads of other planets to have their chance? I think that is a very interesting thing which this film kind of explores quite well, and seeing where the Eternals lie. Some of them think, we should let Earth die, it's had its chance, and have billions of the planets evolve, but then others have grown too attached to Earth and don't want to see it die. I want to stop this celestial from being hatched. And I just think that that was a very good kind of philosophical kind of debate, which I very much enjoyed in this film.
What would you have done if that was you personally?
Wow.
Let's have
You can't ask that question.
Let's have that debate.
I think
it's asking the questions. Let's answer it.
If I could do something about it, obviously I probably would. Oh, if I had that power to do something about it, I would try. But then again, if I was just normal me, then something really I could do.
Yeah, I mean, if I was a Celestial, I'd try and save the planet. But
but if you were Celestial,
I can say, hey, can you please save me?
I mean, it's just repercussions of that.
If you were Celestial, you'd want the Celestial to kind of come through because you're a Celestial.
Oh, what the Eternal? I mean,
You're eternal.
Come on, George.
Oh, but I think one of you actually mentioned it just there, how we do go 2,000 years into the future, and it did give me strong Shang-Chi vibes. It's like, oh, this is set in some exotic place many, many years ago, and then all of a sudden we see the main characters like not teleport, just like in the future in like clubs and stuff, and I think it felt awfully similar, and I do think this is like the new mold or like format they're going with the MCU. I kind of alluded to it earlier. Like in phase 1 and phase 2, we get established to these characters who would be selfless, but in phase 2, we get these characters that are very mystical, I would say, and very different, but they still have to fit in with humanity, sort of, and they do that by just chucking them in a club, which I do think is a bit naff, especially if they keep doing this over and over again.
Yeah, I can understand what you're saying.
I don't see the point in like going from like 2,000 years ago, then 2,000 years in the future, just to make it like I think present day.
With both this and Shang-Chi, they're sort of they have to, all these new characters and all the films. They sort of have to act like they've always been there, And I suppose you have to do that. Shang-Chi or the Mandarin or the Eternals. They've been here for 2,000 years, but we haven't seen them because they're not meant to interfere. They say it like 100 times in the film, probably a bit too much actually. But,
it'd be more interesting if we saw them kind of like if the film was focused on them feeling the past. But constant Marvel films, they always have that same feeling about being set in modern day. But imagine if it was set 2,000 years ago. I think that would
be interesting.
Make it stand out.
That'd be fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, and focused on that a bit more. But one thing I did like, again, nothing I did like about this film, because again, I don't think it's terrible. It's like I like how is very disconnected from the rest of the MCU. There's like one or two mentions to the Avengers and Thanos, but generally it's treated as its own film. And that's another thing I liked about Shang-Chi as well. I think I like the more self-contained Marvel gets when I don't feel like I have to see Ant-Man 2
until the post-credits
to see Shang-Chi. But but that's one thing I did appreciate.
Yeah.
I completely agree, but again, like with Shang-Chi, we get the cameos at the end of the Hulk and Captain Marvel, I believe it was, and then at the end of this film, God forbids we see this guy in a future movie, Harry Styles.
Harry Styles.
Oh man, he is Tosin Cole, but in Marvel. I'm sorry, he is.
You can't say that about my guy.
Well, please don't tell me you're a fan of Tosin Cole.
This is another Doctor Who reference. Everyone take a shot.
Yeah, I love Tosin Cole. We can't say about Harry Styles, man.
Oh, thank God. I thought you were defending Tosin Cole, and I was like,
fuck no.
No.
Oh, no.
What is there about Harry Styles that you think, yes, I would like that guy in me?
Well, it's Harry Styles.
No,
he was good in Dunkirk.
Can't help it.
Oh yes,
he said he was good in Dunkirk. He said he was good in Dunkirk. He barely did anything in Dunkirk. Yeah, like 2 lines.
Well, I didn't realize that was actually Harry Styles in that film though until I actually researched, and I thought, you know what, he did a good job at like subverting that expectation. Like I did not know that was Harry Styles, so it kind of
he wasn't pushed,
and it caught me. Exactly.
He wasn't pushed to like the foreground, like, oh look, Harry Styles.
Like, oh, I'm Harry Styles.
Exactly. I think I might be in the minority, but I enjoyed that end credit scene. I didn't know what it meant. I usually do with Marvel end credit scenes. I normally have a little idea of what it means, but this I have absolutely no idea.
It just means they're all going to come back in another story, I think, with the addition of Harry Styles.
Well, you didn't know what Harry Styles' character was?
What was it?
Well, I didn't know who he was supposed to be.
He's Star Fox.
Star Fox.
Isn't
Brother of
Thanos?
Thanos.
Yeah, I was going to
His
say, isn't he
power
Thanos'
is
brother?
to swoon any other human being. So he's
I
like
take
James
it back
Bond,
our
but
comment about
less
us being
rapey.
MCU buffs.
Well, I mean, I've only read some comics. I have a vague understanding of things, but like my knowledge is pretty much gone now. I mean, when he showed up, and I was like, I know that Thanos has, brothers and stuff, but I thought that's what the is it the Eternals? Is it again? My knowledge is not the best.
Yeah,
I think you're thinking of Athena, because Athena was Thanos' cousin.
That's because I read a comic where you saw their family, his family, and that, I don't know. Ignore me.
Because
Ignore you, George. That's the podcast.
Thanos is an Eternal, but with a deviant strain in his DNA, which is why he's the Mad Titan.
Really?
So that's why he looks different to all the others, because he's more like the creatures, the shit villains in this film.
Should we talk about the villains? Those things?
God.
We haven't spoken about it yet.
What's there to say?
What about the main one? The one that
It's
evolved
kind of,
for no reason?
my mate I saw this with was kind of saying that it was interesting when he was kind of evolving into like what was that? Like he was evolving into like a human when he's the main kind of
just sort of more.
The fact that you have to ask what was he doing is more the fact of like how bad of a villain he was. Where you're like, what was the goal again?
Who are we up here? Icarus or
no? The main. What's the name of those creatures?
Deviants. You'll think I don't know the name of the main deviant.
Yeah, the one that was kind of evolving into kind of this human, and then
the one that could talk.
Yeah, that was interesting idea, but again, they didn't really explore it that well.
For being just
trailers,
he was really lackluster. Like he was the one they were pushing forward as being like, oh, he's going to be the villain of this film, so look out. And then it was like, you get like 3 scenes with him, like kind of dies.
I think of Icarus as like the main villain of this film.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he is absolutely 100%.
Or Aramis.
Like like he isn't for the largest part, and then that's a twist that he flips to evil.
I mean, it's all I guess with the big Celestial and Icarus, they're big twists, so you can't really.
I think I like the Celestial
twist. Did you just say what twist?
He said, "What a twist!"
What a twist!
Oh, okay. I was like, "What twist? Like, was there a twist?" I was like, "Surely not."
I don't remember this film.
Like Ajax died, Icarus was bad, Sprite simped over Icarus. Like there was some twist in this film.
Some very dramatic twists.
I did find it weird how they kind of made a kid like date some old guy. That was weird. Like I know Sprite isn't a kid, but it did feel a bit odd, like shape shifting. Because I watched Ghostbusters actually, and one of the characters lied about their age and stuff, and I just felt this is becoming a thing in movies, and I don't like it. It just comicalizes relationships and like age differences, and it's weird for me.
I think Sprite can get away with it though.
Sorry?
I think Sprite can get away with it because she is meant to be over a century old.
Yeah, but she looks about 6.
Yeah, but
it's
after 1,000 years, like
sure. But the main villain for me is again what I was thinking you were on about was Icarus, and I do think this film kind of falls down a similar hole to Shang-Chi actually, in terms of like going all out for the end and going too far. Because the end is very, epic, but it's the exact opposite of Shang-Chi. Because Shang-Chi actually has like a big story that's been building up, and it's got like the parallels to the start with the dad and whatever. But I personally didn't feel it at all. It's like, what's this guy trying to do? What's this guy actually trying to achieve? He's trying to defeat them, but what? By making rocks lava? And I just thought, of course, that's not the plot. But I just felt like they tried to go all out, but it didn't feel like a good MCU end, and it felt very lackluster, and it was wanting more. Because that really fast woman who just kept running really fast and kept running into the cave, like that got really tiresome after about 10 times, and then she does it about 40 times, and I just think, move on, get on with it, what's going on? Like
also,
the ending
it's very dumb how they all build Icarus up to be the most powerful Eternal. But then in the final battle, Makari basically has him on the ropes the whole time, and then Phaetos can just ground him for like a good portion of Cersei turning the new Celestial into a rock. And I was like, so you're all scared of Icarus, but you can pretty much defeat him. Like,
yeah, it reminded me of the Justice League, not just because of their powers, but like them fighting Superman. And I mean, the whole finale is just a bit.
I'm just watching it now, and I just think Angelina Jolie's a shit actress.
She's not as much a shit actress. I think she's generally decent, but she's got nothing to do in this film. That she has no character to work with. She's just
twitches.
So plain. It's like you could be forgiven if you forget if Angelina Jolie's even in this film. She just has so little impact on anything.
Yeah, I mean, she's basically a plot point. You know, she's the one that remembers, and through her they figure that out, don't they? So, and aside from that, and her relationship with the other guy that dies, she doesn't really do much apart from kill the main bad. Well, the alien bad. Well, I suppose they're all aliens. The
deviant.
The deviant. Yeah.
I mean, ironically, it's Doctor Who reference, but I'm allowed to make it because Jenna Chan was, of course, in The Waters of Mars. And I think, I've seen mixed things about her performance online, but I actually really liked her character.
I think generally she's a good actress. She's in a show called Humans, which I watched earlier this year, and I was very impressed by that. I thought she had a good performance in that, even though she was playing an emotionless kind of droid in that show. She still had a good performance.
Psychopath.
Yeah, that was more kind of but her performance in that was more memorable and interesting than her performance in Eternals for me.
But I'm just trying to remember the film now, and I believe she was stabbed towards the end, and that really hit me. And then she kind of turned the dagger into water or something like that. I thought that was awesome.
I think that I really like that kind of power. There's a lot of creative things you could do with that. Like at the beginning when they kind of turned that bus into like roses. I thought that was very a cool little visual. So there's cool things
a very visually interesting power to have.
Yeah, what you can do with it.
Yeah, because I think there's also like a moment something's gonna fall on them, and they turn it into it's like a boulder, and they turn it into like finite.
You saw at the beginning in the classroom,
something like that. Yes, that was also pretty cool. Like having that effects, like someone young and like actually having a story, have her be a teacher, giving her a story, giving her some human, character. Because with Shang-Chi, did they even have jobs or anything? They were just like
they were car people.
Right, is that a job?
I was saying to
a lot of people just angry at me now saying that.
But I was saying to the others.
Sorry.
I was saying to the others while you were away is that I'm actually not a fan of Shang-Chi. I probably actually like it less than Eternals.
Ooh.
And it's just like, and I think a big reason that is I just feel it's kind of Marvel nowadays, a lot of kind of money is being put into them where there's so much needless kind of emphasis on effects. And when I liked Eternals because, as I mentioned, it's shot on location for so much of it, and so it feels much more real in a way. It feels much more like I can connect with. Shang-Chi feels very fake throughout a lot of it. Yeah, there's some impressive aspects to it, but I do think it has a very kind of fake, clean feeling.
Because I'm surprised a lot of people like the bus action scene in Shang-Chi just because so much of it is CGI and so much of it you can tell it's CGI. But with this, I do think it's cleaner in terms of the special effects. And that's why with Shang-Chi, I actually prefer the scaffolding action scene. I just think that looks superb because they rely more on shadows than actual computer-generated effects. And I
would argue that the special effects in this are much worse than Shang-Chi, simply because...
No, I don't think so.
I noticed it a lot more. I was like, that looks terrible. It's probably because it was, like you said, it was shot like natural light, whatever, like really well. And I think just having loads of CGI on top of that is more noticeable than maybe a sheen of CGI throughout a whole film like Shang-Chi.
I do admit it did look like that on the beach scene. They did look out of place slightly, and I didn't think they impacted the environment as well as they could have.
That's just for me. That's just something that was distracting the whole film for me.
I think there's more little moments where the CGI isn't so great, but I think the bigger CGI, like the Celestials, look fantastic.
I'm mainly talking about like the deviants and everything in the third act, sort of all the explosion, that sort of thing. Not necessarily everything in space, because like when Gemma Chan, Gemma Chan, I can't remember her name.
We just keep forgetting character's name.
I was going to say Icarus, but that's definitely not her.
I think.
Cersei, and she goes into where all the memories are kept. And, like, that looks so good. Like, it's like the infinite wall of like whatever it was, like all the memories that it has like striking imagery at times, but it's just some of it is just muddled with really, really out of place CGI. And I think for me, I can tolerate a film that is very CGI heavy, but if you add CGI to a film that shouldn't have CGI as much as, say, Shang-Chi, then it's more noticeable and more distracting.
Because they do that in like Spider-Man, don't they? Where like they kind of have a beautiful suit for him, which they CGI over completely, so he can do stunts, and it's so frustrating that Marvel do that because it's so obvious that it's effects, and it pulls you out.
Yeah.
To be fair, where it really adds to it, I'm not sure of his name, and I feel bad for describing this, but it's the black guy with glasses. Phaetos, him. He, when they're all together, and just before like the big twist, like, ooh, the Icarus evil, he's kind of explaining everything and explaining like how they all got there, and you have like this CGI pop up above them, showing like how they got there and like the travel they made. I think that looked really impressive because it was like golden and it was really noticeable in the cinema screens because it had quite a bit of shine to it. And yeah, so that was really impressive. So not all the CGI was bad, but actually, I think most of the CGI is pretty great, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I mean, to be fair, I think just for me it is more noticeable and like distracting. But that's just me.
Fair enough. But yeah, the location stuff was really good, and there was one scene where they're on like a porch, I believe. It's Icarus and I can't remember who it is, but it was in Dakotas. Like
I think I know what you mean. Yeah, I think I know what you mean.
It's like a little house thing in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, with Salma Hayek.
Probably one of those, both of those, and it kind of cuts away from like the hot orange vibe straight to like the mountains, and it goes to blue, and that was also a very noticeable moment, and it's like the stark contrast, and it fit the tone really well, and hostile from a very loving tone. So again, that's more of a direction thing because she would have made the choice to do that major cut. And like in the narrative of the story, it really worked because then I think it's Gemma Chan's character. Oh no, it was just some random character. It could have been Gemma Chan who gets kind of stabbed in the back by, is it the Celestials?
This was Sprite, isn't it?
The Deviants. Oh, was it Sprite?
Wait,
I'm pretty sure.
Who got stabbed? Because Cersei got stabbed in the back by Sprite.
At the end.
That's what we're saying.
2 weeks of the way through, I think it's the Deviants.
And when Icarus pushes Salma Hayek into the pit of deviance.
Oh, Ajax.
Ajax.
Isn't that a football team? Oh, Ajax. Ajax. However you want to pronounce it. I pronounce it Ajax. But yeah, I was really unimpressed with the one who went really fast. I think we dubbed her like the Flash earlier. She was a bit crappy, let's be honest. Angelina Jolie, didn't like her. Richard Madden, I thought he was solid. I think he was outshone by Cersei, who was played by Gemma Chan. And like the whole love interest between the two, I just thought that was very Marvel cliche. Like having a love interest between the two main characters.
Just like Gemma Chan, Richard Madden is a good actor, and I've really liked him in other stuff, but just here doesn't have that same kind of charisma, I think. And again, together, I don't really feel much chemistry. The romance was very weak, even though apparently this is the first ever Marvel sex scene.
Oh my god!
Oh yes.
Of course that would have been, yeah.
Yeah. When I saw it, I was like, oh my god, what's it going to be like? You know, it's all over the news, and it's literally just like nothing.
It was a little awkward if you went and see it with.
You just see his butt.
Yeah, I saw that with my grandparents. When Jamie said he was shot on location, I just thought, oh my god, there's going to be sand going up their ass.
Did you want more nudity then, George?
Yeah,
a bit more explicit. Yeah.
Just lower the camera a bit, make it. What was it, like a 12?
Yeah, it must have been a 12.
Oh my god, like the Indiana Jones, one of those films, so it's like a 12, but it shows so much like goriness, and I just thought, you know what, free the nipple.
I think
it's like most like films from like the 70s or 80s, like PGs, and they're like way more intense than 12s nowadays. They're like Jaws. It's like Jaws, Indiana Jones, Ghostbusters. Those films are like way more kind of like explicit and like graphic than anything that's 12 nowadays. It's insane.
Okay.
We've gone on such a tangent now. We're talking about the BBFC rating system.
Oh, thank God.
Eternals.
Theo, do you have any big notes?
Any big notes?
Well, just you know what I mean. Just like big notes, like for a conversation. You tough git. You know what I mean.
What do we think about the last end credit scene with Jon Snow?
I don't remember it.
I don't know what it is.
That was like the best bit. Jon Snow's character goes to touch the sword, the Black Knight sword, and it does like a little venom thing, and then you hear Blade speak. Did you not stick around for like the final?
I did, but I can't remember it. It went straight through me.
Because that's like setting up a future project, but they did it in a kind of cool, low-key way. And I just think it's kind of interesting to see where that's going to go. Because Blade, well, if Marvel's going to try and stick to that, everything's a 12 nowadays, it's going to be interesting to see how they do that for Blade and Black Knight, considering how they're characters who are literally built on need to kill people to live.
I don't want to worry you guys, but it did give me Venom vibes.
The sword.
Because the sword was a bit, gunky, and I just felt this feels like it's setting up for like a Venom crossover. And I know not many people like the Venom films, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it does set up quite a few things, and I think there will be a second Eternals movie, even if it's not announced yet.
I don't think there will be a second Eternals film because like the backlash this film has been so big compared to a lot of other Marvel films. Like I don't think Marvel would bother investing their time into a second film. To be honest.
Everyone that has seen it has pretty much said that this would be so much better as a TV show, so they might make a TV show about it. I don't know.
I suppose Marvel always like take like more negatively received aspects of the films, but they somehow reintroduce them later on, don't they? I remember
they retcon it.
Yeah, like remember that character in the Thor films that no one liked, Kat Dennings' character. She still appeared again in WandaVision. So even if people,
I just love Kat Dennings, so I'm glad she returned, just for eye candy.
I mean, I like Iron Man 3. I like Trevor Slattery.
I love
Iron Man 3.
Iron Man 3 is the best Iron Man film.
Oof.
And I like the Mandalorian twist. I love Trevor Slattery, and I loved it when he was in Shang-Chi.
I was surprised to see him in Shang-Chi.
I was like, I can't believe he's in this film. Everyone hates him.
Did you say he's your favourite character?
Well, he was the most. I think just because I was so caught up in, oh my god, he's in this film,
and he does nothing.
Yeah. He does nothing, but I was glad he was there. But no, he's not my favourite.
I'm just having a moral dilemma about whether to kill you both for saying you like Iron Man 3.
But Will, we've disagreed loads of times before. This isn't the first time.
Did you just say Iron Man 3 is the best Iron Man film?
I did say that, and I'll stand by that opinion.
Come on, we all know Iron Man 2 is the superior Iron Man.
Yes! What? Yes, because most people say Iron Man 1's the best. I will always stand by Iron Man 2.
I can't believe that. I've never heard anyone say Iron Man 2 is the best.
I've never heard anyone say Iron Man 3 is good, let alone the best.
Well, you have now. Iron Man 3 is great.
Yes.
Iron Man 3 is
we all agree that Iron Man isn't the best Iron Man film, is what we're saying.
Yes.
No, we're not saying that. I think Iron Man 3 is the best. Okay, the dislikes in your video now will have just...
No!
Find that.
This could be the most disliked video on your channel. Because
like
people say Iron Man 3 is the best Iron Man film.
Like this video if you think Iron Man 3 is not the best Iron Man. We will not get a single dislike. Well, you two, our guests will have to be disliking their own bloody episode.
Yeah, they're going to be...
leave a like if you breathe.
They're going to be drunk anyway because of all the Doctor Who references, so they probably won't even get to this part.
Of course. And there's another one for you. Let's just reference the Doctor Who characters so everyone just has to get drunk.
Rose Tyler.
The Doctor.
Yes, yeah. That's a really crazy one.
Yeah, I had to think.
Now they've just passed out with bloody alcohol. Right. Theo, anything else?
Anything else? Oh, big question.
Turns out he has had no notes this whole time. He's just reading letterbox reviews. Like, oh, this could be an interesting conversation. Because I definitely haven't been doing that the whole time.
No, I've got nothing really big to say other than I was very happy to see Harry Styles.
So that's why you like this film?
Yeah, when it turned up, I was like, yeah. Literally, I went with a group of mates the first time, and the guy next to me didn't really have cinema etiquette because he was laughing really loudly. And as soon as he came on screen, I just heard him go, "It's Harry Styles!"
Yeah, a lot of people had reactions like that in my cinema. It's like, oh my god, I can't believe Harry Styles is in this film.
Oh, my audience in the cinema has been dead then, because they were like, even when Tom Holland came up at the end of Venom, nobody batted an eyelid. Nobody bloody cared at all. And I just thought, come on, guys, that's a huge... Well, not... It is kind of huge in the context of what's going to be happening in a month's time.
Yeah.
Not even that, 2 or 3 weeks' time. But it's not really connected to Venom at all. It's just like there, and it's like, come on, get hyped. And like, there was all these references to Thanos, and everyone just stayed silent. And I was like, I'm sure you've all seen those clips on YouTube where like someone's illegally recording the movie, like the very end, and then like a post-credit scene comes up, and then everyone's like, there was none of that with either Venom or
I think maybe the sort of hype is dying down a bit with Marvel films, because everything is so like referencey and like they reference Thanos 100 times, but it's like
how many Marvel projects are there this year? There's like 5 TV shows and like there's like 9. That's insane in 1 year.
There's like 5 of each or something like that.
And Hawkeye currently.
I'm very fatigued with Marvel. I'm not gonna lie. Like the only reason I watched it is because I was doing this podcast.
Same.
I remember when you said this to me. I made no plans. I was right. I'm gonna skip Eternals completely, and then you put a message in the group chat saying, "Hey, do you want to review Eternals?" I was like, "Oh fuck."
Yeah, that's exactly the same. I hadn't watched Shang-Chi. I hadn't watched anything.
Say no, bro. We're gonna be put through hell in a few weeks' time when we review that Home Sweet Home Alone.
Wait, what reviewing? Sorry.
Home Sweet Home Alone, the new Home Alone film.
Oh yeah,
I didn't even know that was happening.
Apparently, it's a very dreadful film. So, I'm so sorry, Phil.
I'm gonna blow my brains out. I think. And two another Home Alone.
George Poupart.
Yes.
Do you have anything big that you would like to share with the rest of us?
About the Eternals or just in general?
About Eternals.
Yeah.
Eternals first.
I don't know. I feel like I've pretty much said everything I need to say about the Eternals. It's sort of pretty disappointing. Not all bad. I know I've been very negative, but it's definitely not the worst Marvel film. That's Thor 2 or Iron Man 2. Might be a bit controversial.
Leave it.
But yeah, I don't know. It's pretty. And I think I just haven't got anything big to say apart from it's not the best Marvel film and it's not the worst. And I think that's it. That's all I've got to say.
Well, I hope you've got something else to prepare for your conclusion, because I was very conclusion-like. You may as well just give your score now. But now we'll wait for that later. Joe, do you have anything small to give to us today?
Not really. I think I've kind of covered most of my thoughts on Eternals. I think it's an average film. I think it's definitely on the weaker end of Marvel films, though it's not the worst. I think there are aspects of it which could be great, but overall it doesn't quite hit for me.
I think we all just have to give our controversial Marvel opinions now, especially me and Theo, after you guys said Iron Man 3 is the best Iron Man film. Theo, be controversial. This is your second episode. Say something controversial about Marvel. What's your Marvel hot take?
I don't like Iron Man.
You don't like Iron Man?
The character or the film?
Both. I've never liked Iron Man.
So in Civil War, you're on like the Captain side, Captain America.
Oh, any day.
Everyone's on Captain America's side of Civil War because he's basically right.
Is it controversial to say Guardians 2 is better than Guardians 1?
Yeah.
No, I agree.
I think there are parts of Guardians 2 which are better than Guardians 1. I don't think that's too controversial at all. I really like
Guardians 2 was very self-indulgent by the end, but I still love it.
Volume 1 is the best Marvel film.
I don't really like it that much.
Really?
At the time, I loved it, but it gets worse for me with age.
I think it's a good film I saw in cinema, so maybe I'm a bit biased.
I mean, it is a good film. It's good, but for me, I'm just a bit sick of it. Yeah. Also, I watched Captain Marvel recently, and I enjoyed it.
Yes, that film isn't bad. Like people say it's shit, and I just think,
I mean,
well, it's not though, is
I
it?
wouldn't say it's good, but I enjoyed
No.
watching it.
Yeah, I also think it's a bit meh, but it's definitely not bad. So let's move on to the audience interaction section before we go into the conclusions and scores. I'm just gonna go through the ratings on Airbox. There's not many actually. Wow, I thought there's gonna be loads more, but I won't say any of your scores, of course. But Star Wars fan 007 gave it a 2.5 star. Cole Oakley gave it a 2.5 star. Luke gave it a 4 star, but I do believe that has got lower. I believe it's now like a 2.5. It was originally 4.5, then it went to a 4, then it's like a 2.5, but it may be still 4. I'm not sure because it's not updating, but I believe it went down. But anyway, Harry Memory gave it a 3 star, and Matt Hall, also known as Matt Whelan, a frequent contributor, gave it a 5 star. So, he thinks it's a perfect movie. We're inclined to disagree. But I'm going to throw it straight to George because he was the one who literally gave his conclusion as like a final note.
Just say everything you just said again.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. In conclusion, the Eternals, it could have been so good. If it was a TV show, if we had more time with these characters to flesh them out, it could have been really, really good. Like, there's some really interesting ideas. I mean, it's a long film, but it sort of wastes its time. It wastes its time on all the wrong things. It's got weak villains. It's got weak plot. It has a strong sort of moral conundrum, but apart from that, nothing really engaging. Too many characters, way too many characters, and even though the direction is sometimes really good, I feel like the visual effects let it down, and it's very, very messy. A lot of good, but probably a bit more bad, in my opinion.
Fair enough.
And shall I rate it now?
Yeah, go for it, mate.
So I'll give it 2.5 out of 5.
2.5 down. Yeah, fair enough. Joe next.
Okay, Closeout definitely brings something to this film which a lot of Marvel have been lacking. It does feel a bit more kind of fresh and a bit more unique than a lot of other Marvel films. It does feel like Closeout just came in and brought something to it, and there are some very well done visuals and some great scale and effects, and some of the action sequences are entertaining, and all that stuff is very well done. But it's just too much in one film. It's too many characters, too many big, huge ideas. The film definitely wants to be this huge film, but it doesn't quite. I don't quite get there because I don't really feel connected to any character. It feels too big, really. I think it's his biggest problem, and it's just a shame because there is a lot of promise with what's involved, and it's not the worst Marvel film at all. And it's some good elements to it. But yeah, it is disappointing. So yeah, I'll same ratings, George. I'll go for a 2.5 out of 5.
I'm struggling to disagree with anything that you're both saying right now, except from George about the special effects, but we've touched upon that. Theo, you know what, I'm going to go next because I have absolutely nothing to say, and I do trust that Theo has something more to say other than bleh. 2 star out of 5 for me. Theo, go for it.
That was really profound.
Again, this has been the busiest week of my life, or at least like the busiest week for a long, long time.
Oh man, tell me about it. It's fine.
Yep. Yeah, it's just like coming up to the end of the first semester, a lot of deadlines, a lot of stuff going on in real life.
Are you in your first year of uni?
I'm in my first year of uni.
Yeah, like I found that when I was into my last year, I was in my first year, coming to the end of the first semester, just a lot of work was piling up. And I'm in my second year now, and like so much work I've got to think about. It's really, really intense.
Oh. Well, thank you for getting me hyped for next year.
You're stressed this year? Well, next year's even worse.
Oh, man. I've heard good things about first year, to be fair. Hey, please, cure my depression.
Right. Well, I'm not going to do that with my conclusion. But overall, I like the film. I think it's slightly above average for what I'd expect from a Marvel film. Personally, I liked most of the Eternal characters. The villain was absolute dog shite. And I love Harry Styles. So I give it a 3 stars.
Theo's review is just Harry Styles, isn't it?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, you've got me.
Theo, have we bullied you down to a 3? Because I swear you gave it a 3.5 originally.
No, I think I gave it a 3 originally.
VAR analysis. Oh no, you did give it a 3. To be fair, I'm just tripping. Yes. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, you did give it a 3. So the average is, well, again, the guests have the right opinions. Here we have to applaud Joe and George because this time
thank you.
have to applaud George. So,
I mean, I had the wrong opinion last time, didn't I? George was the only one that was right.
It would seem but now I have always have the right opinion.
Yes.
I swear with Star Wars as well, you guys were pretty much. Actually, no, you went a bit higher than the average, didn't you?
Yeah, because you and the other guy were like they brought down the average.
I like that. No bad blood, but that was funny. Oh, God. So yeah, the average does come to a. Oh bloody hell! What does it come to? A 2.5. My maths completely got me, and then I thought we were doing like Star Wars, so I thought, 3.5 average, 3.5. Then I was like, no, bloody Eternals. Fuck this film. But honestly, it is this massive step down from Shang-Chi. I know, George, was it you that oh no, it was Joe. You didn't like Shang-Chi much?
No, I wasn't keen on Shang-Chi.
So how do these two films compare? Which would you say?
I mean, okay, I admire more of Eternals. I think that they both have issues, I think, in of themselves, but I think Eternals, to me, has a bit more kind of going on where I appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay.
It's only like a hair. It's like a hair more better than Shang-Chi for me. Shang-Chi would also give it 2.5. Another Marvel hot take.
Yes. Oh, well, I do think that film is pretty mixed, but my hot take, because I don't think I mentioned one. WandaVision is bloody awful.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I liked it.
Yeah, so
It was messy, but
I love the first
liked
episode.
it.
The rest is garbage.
the
It
first
gets
two are
worse
good.
as it goes on.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And I'm not a big fan at all. It's not trash. I do kind of. I was harsh on it just then. It is bad, though, I would say. Like, the first two are very good. Sorry?
So we'll be watching Hawkeye.
I'm going to get to that tomorrow.
I've not seen Hawkeye.
It's okay.
I think it's pretty good. I really like it.
The main person.
Kate?
Not
Kate Bishop?
Kate Bishop, yeah. I like her.
She's
But
good.
at the moment, it's 2 episodes. It's okay.
Okay, I'm going to
I
get to
haven't
it
finished What If. I started that and I haven't finished it.
Same.
Yeah, I
still got the
wasn't
final
in-
three.
I wasn't
That's
into
it.
it particularly.
First episode was very rough. And
It gets better.
okay. I do plan to finish it, but
I find the what do you call it, Doctor Strange one pretty overrated. Like, it's good, but it's not the masterpiece people say it is. It's like, oh my god, emotional, 10 out of 10, and I think no, just no. But that was the penultimate episode of the Big Screen Podcast. I've been with Theo, Joe, and George. Joe and George, I hope I never see you again.
Same, likewise.
Nice to meet you guys. I'll bug off.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, fuck off. No, I'm just joking. It's been a pleasure again. So, what is this now? Like the 4th recording we've done?
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they've all been fun.
Yeah, they've all been very fun to record and like edit together. Like, I don't realize how enjoyable these are to actually listen to until I finally edit.
Yeah.
And I think, you know what, that actually came out quite well. And I think, you know what, I like this episode. And then I just have like a fan wank over my own podcast, which is very
You're stuck in yourself up a bit, right?
Yes.
I think
you know.
me and George have definitely become a lot more comfortable in this podcast. I think as it's gone on,
Yeah.
as we were on that Doctor Who one, because obviously we're so new to it, we've never done stuff like this before, and then we just decided to ramble for like an hour, which is something I can do very well.
Yeah, I was thinking about it a few weeks ago. Actually, I do think you two should start your own podcast, and you two be the hosts and do like movie stuff and stuff or whatever. Because I think you could do it.
I wouldn't be against the idea.
Rivals?
Yeah.
Yeah, we
I have
become
just
enemies.
formed. Oh yes.
You just create an enemy here.
the thing is, if I actually do like the new Home Alone film, me and Theo will have words at the end of the recording. We'll be like, "I hate you now," and I'll be like, "Yeah, you sure?"
Yeah.
But yeah,
So I'm
that'll be
impressed.
the episode.
I have to say though, I'm impressed about the amount of like views this kind of your channel was kind of been getting
Yeah,
recently. Yeah, they've kind of gone up.
I explained it on Twitter. Basically, me and
cool.
Michael started this podcast many months ago, and basically our goal originally was to, get people to engage with it. Like the Doctor Who one did well, but we actually was a lot of engagements with it in terms of views and stuff. And whilst we were getting like 50 views per video, when Michael left or like whatever, we was broke paths or whatever, and he started his own. But I was like, you know what? I'm fed up of waiting for this channel to quote unquote do well. So I thought, you know what, 50 quid is a day's worth of wages of mine. And I just think, you know what, one day out of God knows how many days I work, it's not a lot. So I thought 50 quid, I would distribute them over each video. And the thing is, you have to be very careful because you can just chuck an ad up for a video, but it may not retain the audience. So you actually have to do like the advanced settings and then like look for the keywords and look for the target audience and stuff. And I did that, and I did it with every episode except from Day of the Doctor, our latest one. And so the Day of the Doctor's views are completely organic, and that's actually our most popular one. It's got like 3,500 views.
Woo!
Like, it got picked up by the algorithm, and it's got like 200 likes as well.
Wow.
So let's see if this
me and
episode. Yeah, you and Cole were just the biggest draw to that episode. Yeah, definitely not the 50 fucking quid I invested.
Minor.
To be fair, we did get some good feedback about that episode from university people. So it'll be nice to see if they listen to this one as well, or if they just got bored after episode 1 and thought, fuck these guys, what are they even doing?
Losers.
Nah, but it should be fun. But yeah, do you guys want to set like a goal or like a estimate how many views this one's going to get? Like it could get about 30 views again, to be honest with you, because I'm not going to invest money into it. So, but again, knowing the other one did so well, what would you say it will do?
3 million views.
I was going to say,
15 million likes on this video.
Yeah, 2 million likes and we'll do a part 2.
That's our target. We talk about Eternals a second time.
Well,
Yeah, I just repeat the same things over and over.
The exact same words and the exact same way we say them.
Yeah. We won't even re-record, so I would literally just edit and upload the same file again. And that is part 2.
And we get another 3 million.
Bring me the money. I'm actually getting paid now. You know, I should actually give you dividends. Theo, we got paid 20 quid with all the views we've been getting.
Wow.
20 quid. So I should give you a tenner probably. But yeah, that's that.
But you're not gonna.
Yeah, I should, but I won't. That's what I'm going to say there. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. And thank you again, Joe and George, for coming on.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
No problem.
Thank you.
Next week, we are not here. The week after, we are not here. I definitely didn't make this up on the spot because I realized I fucked up. In 3 weeks' time, we'll be back to review Home Sweet Home Alone, the final episode of the podcast. We'll see you there. See you next time. Peace out.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
I swear, it's always like a little pause between me saying goodbye and then like everyone just like, should I say goodbye?
I'm a bit like that. I'm sure.
Every single episode.